JBL has been busy with multiple launches this year and I've been lucky enough to get my hands on these. Thank you to JBL India for making this review possible by sending me a demo unit. All thoughts and opinions are my own. So let's jump straight into this review with how these are built. The Tune Beams unboxing is straightforward and to the point, and they happen to use eco-friendly and sustainable packaging, so Mother Earth will thank them for it. You get the earphones in the box, its case, a set of small and large ear tips with mediums already on the earphones, a JBL branded USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and all the literature. Thankfully, JBL has been choosing to use a matte finish on all their TWS earphones, which is a very welcome look and feel as it doesn't show wear as fast as a glossy case and earphones. This has a USB-C charging point below it, the JBL branding on the front which catches light when at specific angles, and it has the JBL Tune branding behind it, which is a nice touch. Coming back to the front of the case, it has 3 LED lights which show you how much battery the case has, and something I quite like is that you don't need to put much effort to open the lid. You almost just have to think about tapping it slightly from below the lip and it swings open, ready to play. The spring has a nice tension to it, so this lid doesn't slam shut like some cases can. It's got a nice soft clasping sound when closed. The earphones sit quite snug in the case and are very easy to access. The matte finish carries over to the earphones as well as the JBL branding on each earphone. The ear tips provided are well thought of with a soft silicone material which is more than comfortable in the ear for longer listening sessions, and the mount is rigid so it snaps onto the earphone quite easily, making ear tip swapping quite fast and easy to do. There are LEDs on each earphone which let you know whether they are connected to your device or not. They stop flashing once they are connected to a device. On a comfort front, despite looking like these are larger earphones, they sit quite comfortably with my ears. I have had comfort issues with some earphones in the past in my left ear, but these sit just right and are easy to forget that you're wearing them. A nice and very welcome touch to these is that they come with an ingress protection rating of IP54, which means you shouldn't have to worry about dust and water splashes, so this will work just fine for any physical activities. On a feature front, these come with the very latest Bluetooth version 5.3, have touch controls and also have the JBL app support, and these also feature multi-device pairing. After opening the JBL Headphones app, you'll be able to see what the earphones charge holds independently as well as the case's battery life. You get JBL's ambient sound control which lets you toggle between noise cancelling, which helps reduce droning noises around you, the ambient aware function which lets in a little bit of ambient sound and is ideal to use when on walks or runs, and you get a talk through feature which lowers your media volume level by quite a bit so you can hold a conversation with someone near you. Then you get an equalizer section which I'll speak about in the chapter about sound, and below that a gesture control section. You can choose specific gestures via each bud and choose which ones you want to by selecting them from here. You can toggle between your ambient sound control, volume control, playback and voice assistant, or not have it respond to inputs at all. A nice touch is you can control what the ambient sound control cycles through. In this case, it will cycle through noise cancelling and ambient aware, and if I want to put it off as an option in the cycle, you just have to check this option. Then you can double tap to switch to talk through mode, and a tap and hold will activate your native voice assistant. The right bud is programmed to volume control straight out of the box, and when on this mode, one tap will increase your volume, a double tap will reduce it, and a tap and hold will activate your native voice assistant. Should you decide to switch one of the controls to playback controls, a single tap will play and pause your music, a double tap will take you to the next track, a triple tap will take you to the beginning or previous track depending on where in the current track you are, and a tap and hold remains to be your voice activation gesture. Call controls are standard with each bud. A double tap will answer and end phone calls, and a tap and hold will reject an incoming call and mute or unmute your microphone during a call. Moving on to the rest of the app, you get a voice aware feature which you can use during phone calls. It'll play your voice back to you so you have a sense of how loud you're speaking. You get a smart audio and video option which, when active, the smart audio plays the highest quality codec available, and the smart video reduces latency for when you want to consume video or have a quicker response time for gaming. You can choose which voice assistant you want to make your native one, and also change the language you want your voice prompts to be in. A neat feature JBL has added is the max volume limiter, which is a great initiative to protect your hearing in the long run. It caps out at around 80% on my phone, but ensures you aren't exposed to audio above 85 decibels. A feature I've come to really appreciate is the Find My Buds feature. It's always helped me locate my earphones if I've dropped them somewhere near me, behind a pillow or under a sofa. Then you get a power saving mode which lets you enable auto standby for the buds. This could help you stretch your battery time, but I think it would have worked better if the earphones had an in-ear sensor. The multi-device pairing on this seems to have had a lot of thought put into it, because I have used some other products that have multi-device pairing, but they're usually quite fiddly because you have to press and hold one of the earbuds, then it'll switch over to the second one. These in particular are quite seamless because they connect to two devices at the same time, and so far it's worked quite flawlessly with me. So I wouldn't really call this multi-device pairing, I'd call it simultaneous pairing because of the way it works. But it does have something that I think a few people might find a little bit annoying. If you're connected to both your devices and you're consuming media from your primary device and play the media from the secondary device, it won't shift over. You'll have to pause your media on your primary device, only then will it play the audio from the secondary device. My take on this is that it's actually a good move from JBL's side, because I've experienced other brands that have tried the same thing, but they keep shifting over to the other device only because it's registering keyboard clicks, rendering multi-device pairing unusable. But clearly the way JBL has taken this approach is the way to go forward. Coming back to the smart video option, now every set of wireless earphones is bound to have some sort of delay or latency issues. Now if you really don't want any latency, it's best you pick up a set of wired earphones, but the whole point of this is to be convenient. Now the latency in particular with these does speed up when you switch on the smart video, and I find it more than good enough whenever you're consuming video. But instead of me going on about how it is for me, I'll leave a demo for you to see how it responds with gaming as well as video.
Connected.
JBL sticks to a good quality of unboxing with all of these earphones, despite each of them being in slightly different price segments. The 230NC, however, comes with a slightly larger box. This is part reason because the earbuds themselves are not placed in the case. All of these come with dynamic drivers, with the 230NC coming in with the smallest driver at just 6mm. The other two earphones come with 8mm dynamic drivers. And these support SBC and AAC codecs with a frequency response of 20Hz all the way up to 20,000Hz.
Connected.
The Wavebeam and buds do have a good enough detail recovery so as to enjoy certain nuances in your music. But when it comes to the 230NC in particular, it does have sharper edges. It is finer in its detail recovery. The active noise cancelling on this works as well as it should, because it does a very good job in cutting out droning noises. So if you've got a fan motor, an AC motor, or even if you're close to a busy street as I am, it does a very good job of eliminating a lot of engine noises. So I do expect this to perform fairly well on an aircraft as well if you plan on using this for travel. The thing I like about how the ANC has been handled is that it's not too aggressive, because I have used some earphones that are terrifically aggressive when it comes to cutting out decibel levels. So a lot of people don't like very aggressive noise cancelling, because in some cases you can feel nauseous, and in other cases you can feel as if there's some sort of pressure build up in the ear. The JBL are definitely not that aggressive, so they're not too light and they are not too aggressive, which means it's just right. So if you're somebody who wants terrifically aggressive active noise cancelling, these most likely won't be for you. If you want a nice balance, or should I say the perfect amount of noise cancelling to cut out droning noises, this does extremely well. A big reason why it's able to handle its noise cancelling as well as it does is that it has 4 microphones. It has 2 microphones on each earbud, so these microphones are hard at work whenever this is on to try and figure out what the droning noise are to create an opposing frequency, which is why these do quite well. Those same 4 microphones are also helping with the environmental noise cancelling for any phone calls that you might want to make. So if you do want to know how your voice would carry over to your recipient in a crowded setting, there really is only one way to find out. I'm calling you from the usual busy street where I normally do a lot of these call tests from, just to give you a sense of the amount of noise that's taking place in this environment. There are a lot of two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and you'll get the occasional truck passing with a pressure horn. There is also some construction work going on over my left shoulder as well. So this is the amount of noise that these earphones are going to be battling when it comes to the environmental noise cancelling. So I'll shift over to the JBL Tune beam microphones right about now.
So this does come with two microphones per earbud, which is obviously governing the noise and your vocals, and the algorithm is trying to figure out how to carry over your voice clearest to your recipient. So right now you are playing the part of the reviewer because this is pretty much how your voice is going to be carried over to your recipient. So this should give you an idea of whether or not you like how your voice is carried over. So what I usually do is I toggle between a few modes to see if there's any more strain on the environmental noise cancelling because you've got two microphones per earbud that are doing all the work. So right now, actually, I am on the active noise cancelling mode. So I can't really hear much of what's going on here. In fact, I'd say the active noise cancelling is actually pretty good in real world settings because I didn't hear any of those vehicles just going past. So what I'll do is I'll switch over to the ambient aware feature. So after she gives you a voice prompt, I'm able to hear a lot of the air, a lot of the noise from the bikes and the cars passing through. I'm able to hear the environment around me. So you'd be the best just to see if there was a switch in the sound that you're hearing with my voice, because the earphones are actually taking slightly more of a load in that case. So when you're on a call, in fact, you cannot switch over to talk through mode. It's disabled because you're on a phone call. So the other thing I can do is, in fact, let me switch over to active noise cancelling again because it's just a bit easier for me being so close to this main road. What you can do is switch on and toggle the voice aware feature. Now, this feature I find quite interesting because I've not seen any other brand that does this. I have had a few people who have written to me in my comments saying that they don't like using earbuds to talk because they can't really hear themselves, from the outside. So voice away is exactly that. In fact, it'll help you keep tabs on your volume while you're talking if you're in a environment where there are a lot of people. So I'm going to switch the voice aware feature on. So again, there will be a certain amount of load on the microphones right now. And the first thing I've noticed right now is that the active noise cancelling has been switched off. So let me scroll up, and of course it's grayed out. I can't switch it on because we have the voice aware feature on. And right now I am getting a low amount of my voice feeding in, and as soon as I switch over to mid, there is a little more of the noise that is feeding in, but I can hear myself much clearer, and on high as well. It brings in a little bit of the outside noise because obviously it's emphasizing mid frequencies so that your voice can feed through back to you in the earphone. So I don't know if this would have created any difference in the audio. I think you'd be the best judge to see whether or not that would happen. And I do hope that this call demo has given you a better understanding about how these earphones function. And I will see you back at the studio.
On the sound front, these come with 6mm dynamic drivers, have a frequency response of 20 Hz all the way up to 20,000 Hz, and they support SBC and AAC codecs. JBL informs me that they will be coming out a little later in the year with a new codec which is called LC3. Apparently this is a much lower bitrate codec, but there is no loss in overall audio clarity. So I'd be very keen on seeing, and or should I say hearing, how this sounds when it does come out. On a volume front, I've been listening to these between 45 and 50% volume because anything above that can get a little too loud for me. And speaking about things getting a little too loud, JBL has implemented a new volume limiter which caps the volume output at about 85 decibels, and this is sitting right about at the limit where you won't damage your hearing, because beyond this volume for prolonged periods of time is not safe for your listening. So I'm glad that JBL has actually implemented something like this. As with most audio products, this tends to thin out with its sound the lower in volume that you go. So it does manage to maintain some roundedness at about say 30 or 35% volume, but when you start going below that at say 25 and 20%, it does lose a lot of the roundedness it has. But even at 30%, it's a very nice softer volume to be able to wind down at the end of the day. Soundstage on these is much like most other TWS earphones in the market today. It exists within a bubble in your head, giving you the illusion of some tones coming from further out of them. It does have good left and right slight separation and a dead center phantom channel. Imaging on these I feel has gotten crisper and cleaner compared to the other JBL earphones that I've reviewed in the past. It's much easier to zone in on certain nuances when it comes to this because I'm able to pinpoint certain vocals and instruments which otherwise would tend to feel a little muffled or difficult to get a proper structure when it comes to the imaging. But with this in particular, it's quite easy to do because of how well it actually images. High frequencies have a soft and welcoming approach, and I'm all for the way JBL has tuned this range. It's not forward and in your face like some wireless earphones can be. These have a composed delivery, ensuring you don't get listening fatigue over longer listening sessions. From brushes on a snare to soft cymbal hits, this range is delivered to you with no sense of exaggeration. This range does have a slight accentuation instead of being flat, but they've got it just right. It's not lethargic here or over enthusiastic. Listening to Dave Matthews Band's Crash Into Me, the soft cymbal hits in the intro come through with refined energy, staying far from being piercing. The combination of how well these image with how effortless this range delivers itself only ensures being able to listen to any genres of music for prolonged periods of time. There's a tenderness this range is delivered with, and it stays clear from being sibilant with whatever music I've thrown at it. Mid frequencies have a slight recess compared to the highs, but they're not pulled too far down in presence. It maintains good detail with vocal or instrumental presentation, but does sit a little further back in stage, giving you a little dimension in your music. Surprisingly, male and female vocals both sound full and rounded without sounding nasal, which some recessed mid tunings can do. Instruments don't get muddled into the vocals, ensuring good separation between the two entities. Listening to Fleetwood Mac's Dreams, there is terrific separation between Stevie Nicks' vocals and the seconds, which I really wasn't expecting from these. There is almost always a certain sense of multiple voices blending or merging with most TWS earphones, but these do it right. Even if you are listening to heavier music, this maintains a cleanness in their mid-range delivery. Lower frequencies have a slight recess in the upper bass region, but it has a strength and body you wouldn't expect from a 6mm driver when it comes to handling its bass and sub-bass regions. Despite having a heaviness in this lower region, it doesn't eat into the mid-range as much as I expected it to. Mids still remain clean, most likely thanks to that upper bass frequency dip, so there's not as much interference between these ranges. Surprisingly, there isn't much bloat here. It does have a more natural delivery than I'd expect JBL to have, and I hope this is their approach towards this range going forward. It stays well defined and enjoyable, but doesn't have as much tightness as I'd like, but it's almost there. Listening to Major Laser's Lean On, the bass and sub-bass frequencies come at you quite effortlessly. These handle this range like they were primarily made to be bass-happy earphones, and what makes this range even more enjoyable is the fact that it's not trying to overdo itself with over-exaggerated bass. It's just right for a workout or even a commute. So if you don't like the sound straight out of the box, JBL does have an EQ you can play around with within the JBL app. And those EQ presets are Jazz. There is a very obvious spike in the highs, upper bass and sub bass here. This can introduce a little bit of sibilance, so it'll work with instruments more than vocals. Vocal tends to make your audio more mid-range prominent. This range will work best with podcasts and anything vocal really. Bass has a heavy accentuation in the upper bass to sub bass region while the other frequencies sit flat. This introduces a lot of bloat and heaviness that I can see someone using only if they want to enjoy heavy bass while working out. Club has a slight accentuation in the highs and bass and is quite enjoyable to listen to without getting over exaggerated in other regions. Studio pulls lower frequencies down while maintaining a flat mid and high frequency range. This can work for people who don't enjoy too much bass, and I can see some folk enjoying jazz, blues and in some cases rock music for tracks that have a little too much bass. Extreme bass does as it says while trying to introduce some balance with boosting the highs a bit, but it's just boomy audio which interferes a lot with the mid-range, making it sound quite muddy. And of course, you can add your own personalized EQ settings as well, and you aren't limited to 3 or 4 bands of tuning. You can add as many as you need, which is a great option to have. So to sum up, overall on a build front, I love the fact that JBL is sticking to this matte finish and not gone the glossy route, because I have an older set of JBL earphones that I've had for over a year, and I can honestly say it doesn't look a year old. I'd say it maybe looks about 3 months, maybe 3.5 months old, not anything more than that. So the matte route is the way to go. Now, if you are one of those people who's planning on putting it in your pockets along with keys and all, expect a lot more scratches and scuffs to occur. So preferably put it in a more protected area. Overall, it does give quite a premium feel. The combination of its matte finish with just generally how it feels in the hand and how it functions down even to the earphones, because I love the fact that you can just about touch or very gently tap the upper lid and it swings open ready to be used. So I do like this feature. I mean, it's the small details that really matter. Even the way it clasps shut, it's got a very subtle, it's not a very loud whack that some lids can have. So JBL has definitely put in some thought into all of these little things. On a feature front, the only thing I think that's really lacking is maybe an in-ear sensor, but I find myself liking earphones that don't have in-ear sensors, especially when I'm doing a lot of A/B testing for comparisons. And in fact, when it comes to earphones like this in particular, the habit I have is that when I'm done listening to any music, I'll slot it back into the case. So anyway, it's going to switch off. So if you're one of those people who does depend a lot on in-ear detection, it's worthwhile keeping this in mind. But apart from this, I think it's got everything it needs to have. The touch functions work quite well on this. It's very responsive. I've never had an accidental touch, or I've not had it not respond to one of my taps or touches. It's always been very prompt. And the one thing that actually works really well that I did think would be a bit glitchy is the multi-device pairing, or I'm just going to call it simultaneous pairing going forward, because it works so seamlessly. I just open the case, and if I've got both my devices on, it automatically connects to both devices without any problem. And cycling between the two is quite easy. The only gripe is I have to pause on one device if I want to listen to media on the other device. So there's a slight learning curve, but it's not annoying, because like I mentioned in the review, when I've used other products and they've had simultaneous pairing, every time you pick up your phone to type a message while you're listening to media off of another device, the minute you start typing and those clicks pop through, it stops that audio from the primary device. So it's very glitchy with other earphones that I've used. Whereas this, it works perfectly fine. One thing that it does do, however, is if you're listening to audio on one device, or should I say a laptop or an iPad, and your phone is also connected to it, if you get a call, that is considered to be the primary device. So it stops playing the media on the device you're listening to, and your phone takes absolute preference. So I think these are very beneficial features, especially if you're somebody who's still working from home, or even if you're sitting in office and you're using this to work, you're not going to have much of an issue with this. I usually don't talk about battery in my conclusion, and I refrain from talking about it, especially in my in-depth reviews. I leave it for a long-term report, but I have been using this set of earphones for about 2 weeks now, because I like to be very thorough with my reviews, and I'm happy to say that I don't think that JBL is fibbing at all about the numbers they're claiming with the battery life, because for one, they're using Bluetooth version 5.3, which is superbly power efficient. And over and above that, I have barely seen any battery depletion while doing all of my audio testing. It's depleted extremely slowly, but the other contributing factor could also be that I listen to it at slightly lower volumes. So expect to have much longer battery life if you're listening to audio at lower volumes. And the other thing that I find is a massive advantage also is your talk time isn't going to be a very shallow number. In fact, JBL claims that you can get 6 hours with ANC and 6.5 hours with ANC off. Some of the earphones that I've tested have only done about 1.5 to maybe 2 hours. So I've always recommended using one earbud at a time, so that when one earbud dies, you can use a second. But in this case, honestly, I don't think you're going to be on a phone call for 6 hours straight. So every time you're done with a phone call, you pop it back in the case and you get that much more time. The battery life is absolutely unbelievable. And what will further, I think, make the battery life even better in time is that LC3 codec that should update into the earphones at the end of the year. Because if you're using a slower bit rate but maintaining the same quality, you're not transferring as much data. So I think these battery numbers can only go further up, and it's absolutely unheard of, at least in the TWS world. On a sound front, honestly, I didn't go into this review expecting much from these. I thought it would have been a minor upgrade compared to the previous set of earphones that I had listened to, but I'm very happy to say that JBL has definitely put in an effort when it comes to the tuning, because the imaging off of these, I've not really heard off of too many wireless earphones in particular, and this is definitely a step in the right direction because even the way it handles its highs, they're soft and smooth in their delivery. They're not aggressive and wanting to throw daggers at you no matter what kind of audio you listen to. Then the mids are slightly recessed. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're using some variant of the Harman curve when it comes to the tuning of these, but the mids are recessed a bit, but they don't sound lowered in volume. Rather, they sound slightly stepped back, giving you a little more dimension when you're listening to your music. And the bass does have that slight dip in the upper bass region. I think that's how they managed to leave the mids kind of untouched to a certain extent. There is a little bit of nudging that the mids get when the bass is being overemphasized or you're listening to a bass heavy track. So the way they've done it is they've tried to keep it as clean sounding as possible, and I wasn't expecting this from JBL because the JBL that I know, at least from many years ago, used to be all about loudness, and at least this version of them I can really appreciate because they're finally moving towards much better sound clarity. The one thing that these earphones do is focus very prominently on sound more than anything else. So forget the multi-device pairing, forget all the other features that they've added. I think their focus on sound, I think, is the most beneficial. So how much do these cost? Well, at the time of recording this video, they have a maximum retail price of about 7,999. But by the time you watch this video, it should have a selling price of about 6,999. And the good news is JBL has been quite generous in sending me a discount code for all the viewers over here. You can avail a 10% discount if you buy your earphones off of the JBL website. And the discount code is JBLX Paul's POV. For the entire Tune series, in fact. So if you want to buy any of those earphones, you can use this specific coupon code and you can avail that 10% discount. And another benefit is when you do receive your product, it has a little barcode. So you can scan that, and once you register your product, you will automatically get a plus 3-month warranty extension. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. So I find that to be a very nice approach towards an after sales gesture, because the fact that you can have a longer warranty means they should be looking after you for that much longer. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I hope I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you'd like to support the channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.